said, well, I think Krishna saved you. And then he kind of sighed and said, he always does. Like that. He always does. You know, that's a lifetime of surrender, all kind of circumstances.
People fully seeing Krishna's hand in everything.
Yeah. And that's what I meant by that dance. It's like
rooted.
It gets to be like, okay, Krishna, I'm happy to take these risks for you, because when I take the risk for you, I feel your presence in my life.
It's feeling the magic.
That feeling the magic.
There is like a magic you feel when you put your life on the line. And your vulnerability out there.
And so we may not be called upon to stop some KGB secret police or something like that from finding a stash of books or something like that. But in some ways, we're going to be challenged. And if we illustrate, I'm ready for that. I'm eager for that. You know, I'm able to see the world in such a way where I'm not so caught up in the so-called security of the temporary circumstances. I'm seeing my relationship with Krishna in the framework of eternity. And I'm ready to take risks in that framework. Then a person can become very bold, you know, very dynamic. And that relationship becomes very dynamic.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from the Govardhan Eco Village in beautiful Maharashtra, India. This is Wisdom of the Sages, the daily spiritual podcast, with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. It is episode 1512. Today is January 8th, 2025. Do you know who your children are? That was such a good little thing.
Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Was it 7?
What's supposed to say to that? I don't know. It's like you're shaming me?
They weren't shaming you, Raghunath. They were not shaming you.
I feel so bad for the parents who have reckless kids.
Anyway, let's let that go. I think we can let that one go.
I know, but I just felt it was a strange message to greet us with as we're trying to go to bed. We're already tossing and turning because our teenage daughter's not home.
Yeah. Well, you want to know. Okay.
Good morning.
Yeah. So
we're here. We're having a day off tomorrow. We've been working hard. The trainees have been working hard. The Murdunga people have been working hard. Everybody's working hard. Tomorrow's the day off. So we're looking forward to that tomorrow. Our show will be an hour later. Yeah. What day is it tomorrow? Thursday?
Yeah.
It's Sleeping Thursday, people. So it's 7 p.m. for the Zoom. 7 a.m. for the Zoomers.
Eastern time.
So please join us.
Okay.
Thanks for following us, even though it's slightly erratic.
Yeah.
Hello, Kaustubha. Anything you want to share?
Oh, nothing in particular. Having a wonderful time here with everybody. We're really going deep into in the classes. Really, you know, when you got an audience that's really interested, you know, good energy in there, Raghunath. Yeah. Good energy.
Yeah, we are too.
And it's all going on the Sage Community Platform. Today we dropped the 7th class. So altogether it'll be 10 classes and about 12 hours, over 12 hours of content.
Now, wait a second. Have we been filming my morning satsangs? Okay. We filmed twice. When's the next one we're going to do? Day after tomorrow? No, tomorrow. Day after tomorrow. Okay. All right. So it'll be Thursday night at 7.
Live stream.
We'll live stream at what time? We should really.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Eastern time.
Eastern time.
All right, good. It's fun when people tune in, and then we'll post it. Good. Miss Mara, any announcements before you start your knitting marathon? We said them all. Okay. Let's dive into our nugget today, mister.
Yeah, we got a nugget. It's a famous nugget, actually. Let's pull it up. One second. There it is, right there.
Okay.
Who's it from? Who's it from?
That's from Virgil.
Sounds like a guy like next door. Oh, Virgil.
Virgil, get over here, Virgil. Fortune favors the bold.
That's it.
That's all you have to say. That could be your reel for your
quick one. Short reels are going viral nowadays.
Yeah. Fortune favors the bold.
Boom.
check out our podcast. Check out the link below.
What do you
Remember to like, follow, comment,
Yeah.
subscribe, and hit the bell icon.
So fortune favors the bold.
Fortune favors.
We were
the
kind of
bold.
getting into this yesterday. Maybe
a
there's
little bit
not
like self-determination.
I suppose that spiritual life is it's not, when I got into Bhakti,
Yeah.
I think some people's picture of it is it's going to be some kind of I don't know, very like relaxing kind of, like people what they think of. I think of like a lot of new age stuff kind of like mischaracterizes what a spiritual path might actually look like. That it's not like going to a spa and just relaxing, but it actually
That's one view of spiritual life. Going to
yeah.
a spa. Because we work so hard, like a spa does seem spiritual.
Okay.
Like a bubble bath, like I'm having a spiritual bubble bath.
But when we look at the lives of the great saints from practically any tradition, it's it's usually there's some some bold decisions, some going against the grain, some and usually a lot of self-sacrifice.
Mm.
And so, as we were talking about yesterday, we're all going to get called in different ways in life to be bold. We're reading a story now about Bali, who's going to do something really bold here, and it's he's doing something bold, but it's not like a reckless kind of bold.
Hmm.
I think in Virgil's, in the epic that he wrote, where that fortune favors the bold comes from, the person quoting it was kind of like he was bold but a little arrogant and reckless too. And I think he was his opponent was like more pious and ultimately got like deeper results. But there's a superpower, and when we're bold, we're ready to risk. In a sense, we're detached enough from external things being exactly the way we want them to be that we're able to risk, and we're doing it, with for the right cause, with the right consultation, then you make those kind of risks in life. We should, we've talked about this kind of thing before. We should have a few people in our lives that we really respect, people that are walking a spiritual path, and we say, I want to follow like they're doing. We have some people we can consult with. What do you think? Should I take this bold move in life? And when the time comes, then fortune will favor the bold.
Like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Shall we dive right into it today?
Let's dive in because we were at some interesting spot and we got cut off. I can't remember what happened, but it was like, we gotta go.
No, well, what's happening now? Did we ever start the first? I don't think we even started. Okay, so
that's what it is.
Yeah, we didn't start the new chapter, which is now Bali is determined to grant the requests of Lord Vishnu by granting him his 3 steps, but now his guru, and this is the guru is here. His mood comes across a little bit like the frog.
Greatest cat.
It's like, you don't need to give him all this, you see. He's gonna be
you got to really be north of 50 to understand who the frog is on Courageous Cat and Minnie Mouse.
But his
Courageous Cat and Minnie Mouse, yeah.
He's got a team of priests behind him who were giving him advice about like how to get the material results in life that he wants to get, and they're going to start to advise him not to step up and make that bold move. And there's it's certainly questionable about how much of it is self-motivated on their part.
Yeah.
He's about to make the way the Bhagavatam always frames things out is interesting, right? Because literally what's going on is that Bali is ready to turn over to his quote unquote enemies in the name of being dharmic and carrying out his promise. He's not only going to give some advantage to his enemies, he's going to give them the entire universe, right? Like he rules the entire universe, So Bhagavatam does that where it's kind of like saying like, okay, I'm willing to do that, but I could only go so far, right? No, right. He's giving everything. And when he gives the whole universe and it's not enough, then he puts his own head down and says, step on my head now next, So it's like Bali becomes that example of what it means to actually surrender, where you give up everything with the conviction that because it's the right thing to do, fortune will favor me.
Sure.
In the long run, one way or another, whatever that fortune, that's a spiritual fortune, not necessarily a material fortune, but
There is that, deep faith that the devotees have, that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And even if sometimes it means such a risk might do us in,
We've
it
seen
brings
that.
up the idea of Bali, of Jatāyu, who just made that declaration, I am Lord Ram's.
Yeah.
And if you think you're going to take Sita, Ravana was taking Sita.
Yeah.
And even though Jatāyu was very, very old, he just made this declaration, I am the devotee of Lord Ram, and I refuse to let you to take Sita. And so
he was a bird, right?
He was a bird.
Phil-
He was a bird.
Talking bird.
A talking devotional bird.
Okay. And he said, I'll fight.
And he knew he was going to die. He's like, I'm not going to be able to defeat him, but what a way to die.
Gave it everything.
They gave it everything, risked everything.
Ended up in a
puddle of feathery blood.
Okay.
But found by Ram, and Ram picked him up, and he was in the mood of, I've failed you, Ram.
Yes.
He was thinking, I'm here to serve Ram, but he's thinking I failed him because Sita was ultimately taken. But Ram embraced him and looked in his eyes and just said, you failed me, you died for me. And he died in Ram's arm, and he's immediately liberated. So there's like it not only favors the bold, it's like you cannot lose.
Yeah.
The devotee, everything in the material world, you have this great option that you're going to lose.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even if you win, you end up losing.
Yeah.
Somehow. But there's things you could lose in the stock market. You could lose in the Olympics. You could lose your home in a fire, in an earthquake. By the way, there's very horrible fires in LA right now.
So I hear.
I know. Shout out and all our love to our listeners in Southern California. But there's so many options to lose. Bhakti, if you move forward, I want to serve Krishna, and that's your mood, you won.
Already.
But what if I don't distribute any books? You still won, because you desire to serve. Jatāyu, in one sense, in the material world, he lost. Sita got away. He got his wings cut off. He was left for dead, and he died. He lost. In the spiritual sense, he won. He died in Ram's arm, completely liberated, bold. What is it?
Fortune favors the bold.
Fortune favors the bold.
Fortune
favors the bold bird.
Fortune favors the bird. But I was thinking, as you were speaking, Raghunath, you and I have been practicing bhakti for some decades now. And, I think in our own lives, we've had ways where we've surrendered and taken risks and so on. And I think, we know devotees who have even taken greater risks, like some really fantastic risks. And but there seems to be a kind of a dance as the devotee matures with Krishna, in the sense that, okay, Krishna, I'm going to take a risk for you now. It's up to you to protect me, and it's kind of like, and the devotee kind of feels like Krishna always protects me,
I met this, did I tell you this? I met this devotee I was walking with Radhanath Swami, and, did I tell you this? There's always people like trying to get in on your conversation, like especially Indian pilgrims who are coming, like trying to get Maharaj's attention. Maharaj, and bowing down, and it's like almost overwhelming, when you
did tell me
public
this.
spaces.
Yeah.
But did I tell I don't know if I told everybody on this podcast, but and then Maharaj recognizes him, and he goes, Raghunath, I want you to meet him. He was on the anti-terrorist team during 26/11. That is India's 9/11, which was when Mumbai was attacked.
Right.
And it was
several places
horrible.
In the cities were.
It was the train station, the Taj Hotel, and the Oberoi Hotel. And they came in and they killed everyone. And so this person was one of the first fleet they sent out, anti-terrorists, before they send out the heavy duties from Delhi. And the guy told us the whole story. And he just said the entire time, he was held up for 3 days because their job was to contain the terrorists in the Taj Hotel. And he just had a headphone on and his phone playing the Shringadev prayers repeatedly, he said. He told me the story. And then he goes, it was my Lord Shringadev's mercy. And then when all the smoke clears and we were just there standing in smoke you couldn't see, we just had to shoot into smoke. And he said, when the smoke cleared, my 2 partners were dead.
Right.
But I was standing there because there was a column. And Krishna hid me behind this column. And he just said all the Nisringadev prayers and the column, Lord Nisringadev totally saved me.
Amazing.
Now, of course, even if he was to die, he would be saved. And one said, you're there, you're trying to do your duty, you're trying to protect innocent people.
Mhm.
There's no loss.
No loss.
There's no loss
No loss.
on this path.
I was going to share other stories, but they kind of pale in comparison to that one.
Share a good one. You got
Well,
something.
what I was going to say is there's one time where Raghunath Swami and I were on the phone, and he had sent a message through some particular medium, but it shouldn't have been sent.
A medium like a mind reader?
No, a medium like a
Oh.
like a digital medium.
Boring
Yeah.
medium. Okay. It would have been really interesting if he sent it to a medium.
But
Message is coming in.
but he was kind of new at using it and all,
Okay.
And so he's asking me like, do you know how to like fix this? It can be deleted or this or that. And it turned out that we figured it out, but it had been posted for some time. But I said, I think Maharaj, it was posted at like 1 a.m, and probably nobody saw. I think Krishna may have saved you. And when I said that, he said something, in the way that he said it, you want to talk about a person that's risked their life. I mean, there's stories about Raghunath Swami that he doesn't share with others about, like places
Getting
he's
sent-
been and
Getting sent to go to
know,
Pakistan. To
yeah,
preach.
yeah. Nobody knows about that.
No one knows about that. He told us that year.
I know.
He told us all these he had to go in disguise.
Yeah. So and what, or just
They
even
would have killed him.
even just I'm going to walk from Europe to the Himalayas and and sleep out in the forest every night. That's risk. That's taking a risk. So he's a person that's knows what it is to risk your
There's
life.
devotees that do it right now in these countries that there will be killed if they spread the holy name.
Yes.
They'll be killed on the spot, and they risk their lives, and they're bold.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it.
Yes.
I'm sure they're not like completely settled and have anxiety, but they do it.
Well,
or the devotees from Russia when the Iron Curtain was up.
Yes.
Everything was going along great underground until the KGB found out, and all they had to do was renounce. And they say, renounce their faith, and they just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And tortured, put in prison camps, labor camps, killed.
I remember.
There's no loss.
I remember once at the Pune Yatra, which was it was
a festival.
It was a
very
yearly festival.
Beautiful house in Pune in Maharashtra.
And I was on stage with Maharaj and another group of devotees, and there was, I guess, there were about 4,000 or 8,000 people there. I forget how many people would attend. And one of the devotees there was one of these Russian devotees that had been through that whole era.
Oh, really?
And
I would love to meet one.
He told a story that in some apartment in Moscow, it was kind of like their publication headquarters. Like either they're producing the books in that apartment or they're storing them.
Reading the books.
There's
hand translated.
They're storing them there, something like that. And they got the word that the KGB was on the way, or whatever police force was on the way. They were coming, and they were going to find the stash. And what that, those books, Bhagavad Gita in Russia, prior to the falling of the Iron Curtain, one book, hundreds of people would read that book, and they would put
getting one of those.
They would put
what a collector's item.
They would put a little mark in it. Everybody that read it would put a little mark in it. You would see like how much it went around.
Right.
It was such a precious commodity. It was so hard to smuggle them into the country. They were really treasured. People would read them like with such open minds and hearts and have their lives changed just by reading it one time. So this was like, for the devotees in Russia, this storehouse of this apartment full of books, it was like the center of the hive in a sense. If they get to that, it sets us so far back. And there are two women that, rather than let them get to those books, they, like you see in movies or something, like where you create a diversion. Yeah.
What did they do?
They I don't know if they attacked the police that were coming or something, but they put themselves out so that they got arrested, and so that the police force never reached that spot until they could get everything out. And it meant for sure
they were killed.
At least that they got thrown into labor camps. That was the kind of courage that these people had.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
Linda,
sobering to hear that
Linda.
stuff.
Right? Talk about sacrifice.
Why are you telling that to Linda?
I'm telling to Linda, just in
Linda,
case.
think about that,
Think
okay?
about that deeply, Linda.
No, but in any case, with the thing that I was talking to Radha Swami about when I said, well, Krishna, it seems like Krishna saved you. It was in one sense a far more trivial matter. But the way that he responded when he said this, I felt it was coming from a lifetime of real sacrifice and real risk. And he said it like this, because it was almost like it wasn't the way that he said it didn't fit with what we were talking about. He said it in such a way where I could feel he's talking about a much broader idea. I said, well, I think Krishna saved you. And then he kind of sighed and said, he always does. Like that. He always does. That's a lifetime of surrender, all kind of circumstances.
People fully seeing Krishna's hand in everything.
Yeah. And that's what I meant by that dance. It's like
rooted.
It gets to be like, okay, Krishna, I'm happy to take these risks for you, because when I take the risk for you, I feel your presence in my life.
It's feeling the magic.
That feeling the magic.
There is like a magic you feel when you put your life on the line. And your vulnerability out there.
And so we may not be called upon to stop some KGB secret police or something like that from finding a stash of books or something like that. But in some ways, we're going to be challenged. And if we illustrate, I'm ready for that. I'm eager for that. I'm able to see the world in such a way where I'm not so caught up in the so-called security of the temporary circumstances. I'm seeing my relationship with Krishna in the framework of eternity, and I'm ready to take risks in that framework. Then a person can become very bold, very dynamic, and that relationship becomes very dynamic. All right.
So good.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the Bhagavatam. Ready?
Yep.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu vadreshu nityam bhagavat sevya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respect at their lotus feet. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam.
What happened to the other glasses? You look so good in those.
I don't know. I was having second thoughts.
No, you look great, Raghunath.
Well,
did they help you see?
At this point, it doesn't matter.
Okay. They did look good.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 20, entitled
Bali Mahārāja surrenders the universe.
Not just a little this or a little that, the whole thing, right? Surrenders the entire universe.
Sometimes people do like a 200-hour teacher training. We're teaching them about Bhakti. 300-hour, 500-hour. Guess what? To really get this stuff, we don't want 300 hours of your time. We don't want 500. We want every waking breath. To really get this Bhakti yoga stuff, every waking breath. Not 300 hours. 300 hours, you're not going to transform anybody in 300 hours. We want your life.
Just this one life.
Just this one life. You just give that to Krishna. You've given so much to Maya. Okay.
Hit it.
Text 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, when Bali Mahārāja was thus advised by his spiritual master Sukracharya, his family priest, he remained silent for some time, and then, after full deliberation, he replied to his spiritual master as follows. Spiritual master gave him these warnings. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's crazy. You're going to give up everything. Not a good choice. Here's what Bali Mahārāja says. As you have already stated, the principle of dharma that does not hinder one's economic development, sense gratification, fame, and means of livelihood is the real occupational duty of the householder. I also think that this dharma or religious principle is correct.
So he kind of flipped it on him. If we remember in the previous chapter, in order to rationalize not carrying out his promise, he was almost like kind of saying like, you're going to lose your reputation, you're going to lose your position, you shouldn't do that. He's saying you're right, but if I don't carry out my promise, I'm going to lose my reputation and so on. So he's saying, I agree with what you said, so therefore I should give rather than I shouldn't.
He said, I'm the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. How can I withdraw my promise because of greed for money when I have already said that I shall give this land? How can I behave like an ordinary cheater, especially towards a Brahmana? He's a very cultured demon.
Yes.
There is nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. Because of this, Mother Earth once said, I can bear any heavy thing except a person who is a liar.
That's very heavy.
Very cool.
I earlier when we started reading this past time, I brought up this question: who is Bali? Was he born like? Even though we know he was born in the dynasty of demons, we know that he's the grandson of Prahlad, though, who was a great devotee. We know that he goes on to become known as one of the great Mahājans, one of the great teachers of Dharma. Was he demoniac his whole life until this moment? Did he have a change of heart? What exactly was going on, And I was never able to get to the bottom of that.
What did you still?
But I did find something, and I think it may have been in the commentary to text number 3, or it may have been somewhere else. I'm not sure. But what it said was that the seed was planted for Bhakti by Prahlad, his grandfather. And then when he saw
Lord Vishnu,
Lord Vishnu,
click.
Yeah. So it seems like it's a little of both. He may have been acting like a demon with the seed in him. And then boom, it kind of fructified when he saw Lord Vishnu. But this is a famous statement here, this one, right? And it's a heavy one. There's nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. Because of this, Mother Earth once said,
I can bear any heavy thing except a person who's a liar.
We hear the whole Mahabharata was based on Mother Earth just being unable to bear so many horrible demoniac leaders, right? And we do see like how these leaders, they just lie. Like they begin to learn that, like,
you fact check Kaustubha.
they have a certain convictions that just keep saying it. And it doesn't matter that lots of people know that you're lying. Enough people are going to go for it that you're going to get the result that you want. So just lie, bold-faced lying. And just just a corruption that is, and just how that's just like such a virus in our society. Here it's saying that Earth, this is the one thing Earth just can't take. It's just too much to bear, this kind of untruthfulness. You want to read the commentary?
This is the commentary. This is the purport. On the surface of the earth, there are many great mountains and oceans that are very heavy, and Mother Earth has no difficulty carrying them. But she feels very much overburdened when she carries even one person who's a pathological liar. I added pathological.
Yes.
It is said that in Kali Yuga, lying is a common affair. Even in the most common dealings, people are accustomed to speaking so many lies. No one is free from the sinful reactions of speaking lies. Under the circumstances, one can just imagine how this has overburdened the earth and indeed the entire universe. It's amazing how, like, during the presidential debates that were going on, they're like, the New York Times will say, "Oh, this candidate did this, we fact checked
this many times,
and this candidate did less, but they still did some."
So,
like,
do you want to vote for the one that was lying 75% of the time, or only 54% of the time? I went back to the Yoga Sutras again. We're talking about contentment earlier.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about truthfulness, satyam. Which is
Satyam.
what the yamas. And there we have the commentaries from some of the great acharyas. So there's that statement. What's the boon you get if you embody truthfulness? Yoga Sutra says that when one is established in truthfulness, one ensures the fruition of actions one ensures the fruition of action. So what exactly does that mean? And different people say different things, but Vyas comments on it. And he says, if the yogi who has perfected this yama says to someone, be virtuous, says Vyas, then the person will be virtuous. In other words, you start to carry some potency. Now,
You know what that's called?
Shakti.
Vach City.
Vach City. What you say
What you
manifests.
say manifests. Vach City.
And the perfection of
Linda's
speech.
impressed with that. She's, oh, Raghunath is so wise.
Well, Hari Harananda, another commentator on another classic.
Great name, isn't it? Hari Harananda.
Yeah. He says, truthfulness, satya, is cultivated by willpower, the determination to never tell a lie. But you got to make a determination, right? This power of simple truth can sway the mind of the listener to act in accordance with the yogi's words. So he's giving a practical explanation to how, by saying be virtuous, it's not, he's saying it's not just exactly like magic, but it's like people are prone to be influenced by you based on your character, I assume. Right? The power of simple truth can sway the mind of the listener to act in accordance with the yogi's words. When one meets a saintly person who is situated in truthfulness, one senses that, unlike all other people with whom one comes into contact, this person has no desire or inclination to exploit or manipulate others for personal interest. Such a person is qualified to act as a guru, and one can accordingly entrust oneself to his or her guidance. And he later continues, the yogi is always contemplating spiritual truths and does not occupy his or her mind with fictional or worldly trivia, silly fantasy, daydreaming, or imagination.
Silly fantasy.
Or worldly trivia.
Worldly trivia.
But it's showing that like that mind of this kind of spiritualist, it just develops, it loses its taste for untruthfulness, and it doesn't dwell in it anymore in all its forms. Powerful stuff, huh? What do you think?
If Mara had to be one of the characters on Gilligan's Island, which one would she be?
See, that's what we're talking about here.
That's what you mean
we
by
don't dwell
worldly
there.
trivia. That was my trivia before the show. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes,
it wasn't me. It was Hari Harananda.
Marianne.
Okay.
Marianne.
All right. So now he's made this heavy statement. He's saying, you're asking me to lie. How can I lie? Lying is just so dirty down low. Even the earth says I can bear anything but a liar. And you're asking me to become a liar? I'm not about to do that. Even if you're my guru, I'm not about to do that. Okay. Now, another famous statement.
I do not fear hell, poverty, an ocean of distress, fall down from my position, or even death itself, as much as I fear cheating a Brahmin.
Okay.
Ooh. Right?
Yeah.
There's some horrific reactions you get.
Yeah. Worse than death in his mind. Yes. Right. He's like saying this is, now we're getting the picture of a person who's got a zoomed out vision in life, right? The things that we think are big, he thinks are small. We think nothing's worse than losing your life. He's like, no, there are things far worse than losing your life. I'm willing to lose my life to keep my word.
A lot of people weren't so scared to lose their lives in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
Probably nowadays
to this
too.
day, we're just,
probably to this day too. But there's, if you and me had a disagreement, you're like, oh yeah, let's settle. This is duel. You want a duel?
Yeah,
it wasn't just like a bunch of thugs. They were like our politicians and our.
Let us duel.
Let us duel, Mr. Kaustubha.
How many? 20 paces.
You've offended Miss Marianne. I pull up I just slap you across it.
I challenge you to a duel.
Here's a box of guns.
Which one? Choose your weapon.
Yeah, but it was like they weren't afraid. They like, you've offended me. You've offended me. Right. Let's duel.
Yeah, but this is the kind of integrity we're talking about, right? That you take that integrity and you put it in a spiritual context. Now we're talking about a spiritual path, right? It's not just like lying in the spa and looking at the crystal. It's this kind of integrity, this kind of vision that's a real powerful spiritual path. Shall we continue?
Where are we?
Text 6.
My lord, you can also see that all material opulences of this world are certainly separated from their possessor at death.
Okay, another angle.
Right, here's another angle. You're going to lose it anyway.
Yeah.
He's telling his guru that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's preaching to his guru now.
Yeah, don't you understand? You're going to lose everything at the time of death. Therefore, if the Brahman Vamanadev is not satisfied by whatever gifts one has given, why not please him with the riches one is destined to lose at death?
You're going to lose it anyway.
Yeah,
Why not go ahead and lose it now in a way where you get tremendous spiritual benefit
exactly.
rather than lose it down the road in such a way where you get nothing for
Let
it?
me borrow $100, please. Please.
You're going to lose it anyway.
You're going to lose it anyway. You're probably, when you die, you'll probably have at least $100. Think about that.
Good point.
You think you'll have nothing? You'll probably have
It's possible.
you might be very nothing. You might have very, very little, but you'll have at least $100.
Your point is very good. I should go
Right. So give me $100.
or just find the most worthy person to give that $100
yeah,
to.
I could use it in Christian service too.
What would you
very worthy.
What would you use it for?
I'd go, I'd purchase some prashad down at the prashad stand.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
And they'd take the money, they'd use it for their deity.
Srila Prabhupada in the commentary to the next verse, he quotes Chanyaka,
Chanyaka, statesman, politician, sort of a sadhu, minister, sort of like a Machiavelli advisor to the king.
Whoa, you're coming up with all kinds of stuff here. Machiavelli. But he was an advisor to the king. What was that king's name? Was it Ashoka or something? I
Yeah,
forget.
maybe. I'm not quite sure.
So he says this. He says, San nimite varam tyago vinase niyate sati. That means san nimite, for a noble or virtuous purpose, varam tyaga. It is better to renounce or sacrifice. Vinashe niyate sati, when destruction is certain or inevitable. So in other words, it is better to willingly give up something for a noble cause than to lose it inevitably through destruction. This is a very noble way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
It conveys the principle that when loss or destruction is unavoidable, it is wise to sacrifice the object willingly for a higher noble purpose rather than letting it go to waste. And it underscores the value of selfless action and thoughtful prioritization, especially in situations of moral or ethical dilemmas.
Who said that?
Don't worry about that.
Did you write that? Or did you just AI that
I
thing?
found that.
Little
I
chat
found that.
GPT
Yeah.
toy?
So now he's going to go on to give very powerful. At
Now
this
he's going to start giving
at this point, his
examples.
guru may say, "Come on. It's like you're giving up way too much here. Nobody gives up this much, right?"
Yeah.
And now he's going to say, "Hey, it's not."
Yeah. Here's some historical people that did.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who Dadichi is. He said Dadichi, Shibi, and many other great personalities were willing to sacrifice even their lives for the benefit of the people in general. Do you know the story of Mahārāja Shibi?
Yes, I do.
With the hawk and the dove?
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell that story?
Of course.
Oh, it's a great story. So Indra and Agni were getting very envious of this one earthly king named Mahārāja Shibi. And I'm going to tell the story tonight, matter of fact, because it's a story about how we get challenges on our spiritual path. And so Mahārāja Shibi, he was so noble that he was practically not of this world. And they were sort of like in fear of his ascension to the higher planets. And so Agni and Indra came up with this plan. And so first, I think it was Agni that went as a dove, and he went up to
Mahārāja
Shibi and said, "Hey, listen, you got to protect me." There's the Mahārāja Shibi's doing one of these fire yagas to get even more power and more piety and more, punya, they call it, like pious
accruement of pious credit.
Yeah. So he's about to get even more by doing this one final sacrifice, and this dove lands on him, and he says, "Maharaj, you must help me. You must help me." He said, "What's the matter? I'm in the middle of a fire sacrifice." He says, "Well, there's this hawk that's trying to kill me." He said, "Okay, king, I'll give you shelter. Come here." He puts that little dove on his lap.
It's considered that it is the duty of the king to protect everyone in the kingdom, right?
He said, "You're the king. You've got to protect me. I'm one of your citizens."
Yeah.
So all of a sudden the hawk comes down.
He didn't say you're just a bird.
Yeah, he said, "You're my citizen.
Yeah. I'm responsible.
Then a hawk comes down. And he says, "What do you?" He said, "What are you doing? I'm one of your citizens too, and I'm here to kill that dove.
That's my food.
That's the food. You can't deny me of my food." He says, "What can I do, Mr. Hawk? He came to me for shelter. I'm the king. I have to give my dependents shelter." He goes,
So he had to satisfy both somehow.
yeah. He said, well, I'm the hawk. Well, I'm your citizen too, and that's what I eat. So he said, "Okay, I'll make it up to you. Instead of eating this bird, because I already promised to give him shelter, I will cut off a piece of my flesh."
Equal amount.
Equal amount of weight. So he busted out the royal scale, and he put the dove on the scale, and then he cut off a piece of his leg, and he put it on. No one could even believe what was going on. He put it the size of a dove, and he put it on the scale, but the dove still weighed more. So he's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna saw off a little bit more." Cut off. Put that on the scale.
You got this, Linda? Linda, okay.
Take note, Linda. The dove was still heavier than flesh. He started cutting all the flesh off of all of his body, and he put it on the scale.
Are you sure he cut all the flesh off?
Practically all of it.
Okay.
Practically all of it. And then finally, the dove and the hawk just said, "Okay, you passed the test." Poof, they turned it into Indra and Agni, and they said, "You passed the test." And they restored his body.
And I remember reading in Mahabharata where it's talking about, who was the other one? Not Tadichi, but there was Shibi, and then there was Runti Dev.
Runti Dev, what did he do?
Runti Dev had fasted for a very, very long time. It was like all emaciated.
And he was about to break the fast.
And right as he's about to break fast, like a
Brahmin beggar came. "Please, sir, before you, can I eat some?
I'm also hungry."
All right, here you go.
Divide in half.
And then like a dog with 3 legs or something. Here,
like a dog.
Here, you can
divide in half.
Too. And then something.
So
a widow woman. Here, you take the rest.
Yeah.
And he had nothing.
Yeah. So that was also a test, and he passed that test.
And there was another one. Oh, remember that one me and Tarun always read? It happened in Varanasi. He was a king, and he gave up everything for Vashista, and he became a beggar. Oh man, I can't remember
the comic books about it.
The comic book, yes. He was working in the crematorium. He's given up his family. He's given up his son. Everything's falling apart. And at the very end, when you think, "Oh my God, he's really hit rock bottom," it was all a test. And isn't this our life?
It is our life.
It is our life. We were talking about this in class today. You didn't go to my class, but that's okay. I'm not hurt.
I don't remember you going to my class, any of them.
I don't.
Okay.
Touche. But we were saying today how even as practicing devotees, we'll get tests, Maha tests. And even if we fail those tests, like I feel like I failed a bunch of tests Krishna's given me.
Which ones in particular?
That famous one in the airport where I lost my cool.
Oh yeah, that one.
And
that's in the book.
You know what? That got cut out of the book because I think it was too bad.
It's too much.
But it was still too much. But I lost my cool. And but anyway, even in retrospect, I was like, you know what? I got the lesson, even though the lesson was I got it.
Even though I failed, I still learned the lesson.
I still learned a lesson there.
Okay.
And I was a little proud, and that humbled me. I was a little proud.
Right.
I was
because what happened was you felt something, right? In other words, it wasn't necessarily that there was some negative reaction in your life, but it was the way that you felt after you spoke that way that it sobered you up and made you want to be a better person. And right?
To tell the story in brief. To tell the story in brief, I might as well just share this.
Right.
It was, in brief, I'll tell it.
Okay.
There was a struggle in the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Everything was a struggle for me. Putting on a dhoti was a struggle for me. Wearing the Brahmin underwear was a struggle for me. Waking up early, going to bed early was a struggle for me. Just like coming out of the hardcore punk scene and all of a sudden becoming a Orthodox Hindu, it was a struggle.
The food, the weather, so many other things.
Everything was a struggle. Traveling in India, washing your clothes, blah, blah, blah. But after about a couple of years, I got into the groove.
Oh.
I accepted this, what I was, and I loved it. I was comfortable. I enjoyed renunciation. I enjoyed chanting japa.
Okay.
So for some reason or other, I was in the airport
Yes.
for 36 hours
In Delhi.
in Delhi waiting to go home.
Okay.
And I had by
'Cause you
mistake,
made a mistake.
and I had no money.
You went there on the wrong day.
I went there. You know how the flight's at midnight? So I was like, is it
Right.
the first or the second?
Right.
So I was like, I already accepted. I had no money, so I had to take.
And you
I
didn't
got
even
to the
have
airport.
computers in those days and everything, so
It was
it's
so
easier to make a
ridiculous.
mistake like that.
So anyway, even I had no money, so I figured if I can get 12 hours early to my flight instead of usually get 4 hours early, if I get there 12 hours early, I can get a free ride.
And you also had to plan way ahead of time, because if it took 4 hours to drive there, in those days, you had to say, I got to give myself at least 8 hours, because anything could happen on the way.
And so because of that, I was like 17 hours early.
Okay.
And I was like, big deal. I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to chant. But I finally get there at midnight and they're like, it's the wrong time.
You go tomorrow.
You go tomorrow. And then I felt like, but you don't understand. I had a little bit of an ego. You don't understand that.
No.
You think I'm just very humble minded.
I've always thought you're very humble in mind.
Yeah. So I was like, okay,
most.
Maya, you got something. You got to try to take me down, Maya. I'm going to take you down, Maya. That was my mood. And so I was
you're
like,
demanding a seat on that plane, even though you
no.
ticket?
I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay, and I'm going to stay in this airport, and I'm going to sleep. I had 4 metal trunks, and I'm going to sleep that I was carrying for someone else. They weren't even mine. I was trying to do some seva.
Okay.
I was like, this is what devotees do. They help other devotees. So I was sleeping on these trunks. I'm going to sleep in the trunks. I'm going to wake up in 6 hours. I'm going to chant. I was already chanting 32 rounds, so I'm going to chant more than 32 rounds. I'm going to read the entire Mahabharata that I've already started, and I'm going to fast.
Okay. Whoa. Okay.
And I was like, sort of, touche, Maya. You think you're going to blow me out here? You're going to test me? I'm going to pass that test.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. So anyway, the other person on the plane, Krishna Chaitanya, my bass player, you got to understand, I had no credit cards. We had no cell phones. We had $1 in my pocket. Okay.
All right.
And so I figured I'll just go at the end of the line, and then I'll have the 4 trunks, and you got to let me in. So I go to the end of the line.
What do you mean? What do you mean go at the end? What is it going?
Well, I just figured, I got these extra trunks. I could only carry 2 trunks.
So you're trying to put
I figured,
extra.
Well, because I volunteered to take 4 trunks.
Okay.
2, I felt my friend was going to take, but he ended up missing his passport getting stolen. So he never showed up.
Krishna Chaitanya.
He never showed up.
Okay, so now you're stuck with 2 extra.
I'm stuck with 2 extra trunks I can't bring back.
And you can't pay for
So I'm in line, and I can't pay because I got it money. And you got to understand, I look like I've been living under a truck.
I'm
It's
a
like,
mop. You've been a
I'm
mop.
filthy dirt, filthy old raggedy doty. That's how I rolled back in those days.
That's how I roll.
Scraggly beard, Sika, weathered face. Sort of like how I look now. But at 24. And I was just, I felt like I'd gone to the next level. I had become a sadhu.
Because you didn't eat first 17 hours?
Just because I was good at austerity. I had a taste for hearing and chanting.
Okay.
I was a little bit more equipoised. I could use a squatting toilet.
You were a sadhu.
With complete joy. I take
Complete joy.
2 or 3 showers a day.
All right.
I was good.
Yeah.
I felt good about life, and I was a little proud of it.
Okay.
And then so anyway, I looked like a dirtbag, and one of these Indian guys, probably exactly my age, 24 years old, was dressed very slick and Western. Back then, Indians didn't dress like very Western.
Okay.
And if they did, it wasn't like slick. This guy was slick and Western, and he looked at me really smug, like I was like a dirtbag. I was a dirtbag. But I also had a massive ego that I didn't realize, and this is what Krishna was trying to do, dismantle it.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he goes, "You're never going to get on the plane with 4 luggages. You're going to have to pay extra for that."
Of course.
And I just went, I give him a head bob.
You don't know my.
I was like,
my sadhu power.
Yeah. So I went forward, and he said, "I'm telling you, you're not going to get on the plane. You got to pay extra for that luggage." I only had $1. Now I wasn't going to get into a thing with some low-level guy working for the airlines.
But you're starting to doubt a little bit. A little doubt.
I wasn't doubting. I was completely confident. I finally got to the desk and I said, "Listen, I've got some extra luggage for
my friend didn't show up. So
well, it was pre 9/11. You might be able to get away with. I said, "I know there's some weight requirements, but this guy is supposed to be on the flight." So, take his body weight. These are his luggage. I'm just going to carry him home from him. She's like, I can't really
Take
allow that.
Right. That's a good argument.
It's a good argument. Yeah. So there's going to be an extra seat anyway. There's going to be room for extra luggage. So he said, he said, I can't do that. You're going to have to talk to my manager. Go to the business class line. So I go all the way back to the business class line. And there was that guy again. He's like, you're going to have to pay extra. I'm going to tell you. He's like, you're going to have to pay extra. And so I finally get to the front of the business class line. I said, hi, sir. Hare Krishna, excuse me.
Little situation here. Let's straighten this out.
I didn't even get that far. The guy just said, and he was an older, distinguished Indian gentleman. He goes, I heard what you said to the first lady. You're carrying someone else's luggage.
That's not legal.
He goes, you can't do that.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, well, I was like, okay, just give him my boarding pass then. He goes, I go, just check in 2 of the luggages then. He goes, what about the other luggages? I go, I don't care about them. I'll throw them in the garbage. I'm taking them for somebody else. I was like, like fear started to strike me. Like I have to get on this plane. I have no money. I have $1 in my pocket. And he goes, I'm sorry, the flight is closed. And I was like, what? And I got on the scale, and I'm still in my humble devotee mood.
On the scale, hold on.
On the scale.
That's aggressive. That move right there.
On the scale.
I've never seen anyone
kneeled down,
kneel,
bowing down my obeisances on the scale.
You.
I'm like Mama Shibi. I'm Mahārāja Shibi. I got the scale, and I said,
the royal scale.
No, the luggage scale. He's like. Weighing
and they're looking at you like, please get off the scale.
The sadhu boy, American sadhu boy on a scale. And I'm bowing down. I said, with my hands folded, sir, please, I have no money. I have nothing. Please, I need my boarding pass. And he looks at me and goes, the flight has already left. And then he goes, and he's turned, and he turned over his shoulder and he goes, and the next flight is Friday. It was Monday. Next flight is Friday. It's going to cost you $100 to change that ticket. And then he just walked away.
Oh, that was cool.
And I was like devastated. I'm in India with 4 giant trunks that aren't mine. I have
nowhere to go.
$1. And I turned around and that kid in the suit was there. And he goes, I told you wouldn't get on that plane.
Oh.
And I tell you,
lost him.
I thought I was so involved.
He snapped.
I snapped. And I'm not going to even say what I said.
Okay.
Because you would all unfollow the podcast. But I will say, I grabbed him by the jacket and threw him against the wall.
Rago.
And then at that moment, I realized I thought I was a sadhu, and I got so much more to work on.
It's all right.
Okay.
It's okay, Baba. That's okay.
You want to hear a great story?
Didn't we just? You got another one?
In my overtime?
Tell us.
Here's the sequel.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, so I went to change my ticket, and they said, okay, we'll change it for free. Changed it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere to go. So I went to the Delhi temple. Back then you could store the luggage. Went to the Delhi temple with my $1. I got to the temple and I saw Gopal Krishna Goswami.
Oh, yeah.
Gopal Krishna Goswami. I said, Maharaj, I have nowhere to go till Friday. Can I stay here? I'll do service. And he goes, yes, do service right now. Go with these brahmacharis.
Okay.
It's like
anything
in the middle of the night, or like early in the morning. It was like 3 in the morning or something, some ridiculous thing. And he was awake. And I was like, okay, where are we going? And they're saying, today is Rath Yatra. We need you to decorate the Rath Yatra cart. We had to build and decorate the New Delhi Rath Yatra cart.
No.
And I was on it for at least 7 hours until we built it. And then we went on Rath Yatra. And I got to be on the Rath Yatra cart with Lord Jagannath. And then Abai was there. Do you remember Abai?
Of course I remember.
And Abai was living in Delhi, and he had a lot of money, and he would just take me to different places and feed me Indian sweets.
Oh.
And we just went to sweet shops for the next 3 days.
Oh, it all worked out.
And then Janeshwar goes, I just met Abai. He told me the same story from his mouth. He said the exact same story you've always told.
But I know the answer to what you could have done.
What?
That was back in the day where they had left luggage at the airport. You could just leave luggage there.
I know that. Well, I could have left luggage, but that wasn't the point.
All right. Well,
They
no, but it would have
just
solved the whole
It
situation.
would have.
Left luggage.
But everyone had left. And I was fuming.
Yeah.
I was road raging on this
It
guy.
was all meant to happen.
He's probably old now. I feel bad.
The Indian guy?
Yeah.
Let's find
Mara,
it. We gotta find it.
Takeaways? No Bhagavatam, no takeaways. Well, we did the Bhagavatam takeaways. That was yesterday's takeaway. Miss Mary Ann. Have you ever even seen Gilligan's Island, Mara?
No, never.
And she doesn't want.
Not once.
Oh, she's such
I
a
know. I'm.
she's such a punkster.
That was more Punky Brewster. Was my my
Punky
childhood.
Brewster is a devotee, by the way, or was. in any case.
No.
Yes. Yes. Punky Brewster was a devotee.
What about the girl from Square Pegs?
Are they the same
Devotee.
person?
Maybe it's the same person.
I'm not sure.
What was her name? Maybe the
Alright.
girl from Square Peg. Imagine that Sarah Jessica Parker was on Square. Imagine if Sarah Jessica Parker became a devotee.
What were we reading about? Trivial knowledge?
It's not trivia if she's a devotee.
All right, you ready for some takeaways?
But she's not.
But the other person on Square Pegs was.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Easy. Easy. Yeah, it's busy yourself with
Yeah.
the chat board.
This is Roger telling a long story short. They're all challenging.
All right. Take a bold move, but don't be reckless.
Okay, just don't be reckless when you do it, Raghunath.
And I go, are you
Raghunath.
gonna pay attention?
Oh yeah, it was
All right.
Haris Chandra. I think that was the
Oh
one.
yeah, that was it.
Haris
That was the
Chandra.
story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Desire to serve Lord Krishna and you win.
Desire to serve Lord Krishna. You can't lose. There's no.
Jatāyu.
It's a game. You can't lose.
Okay.
Take risks for Krishna and feel the magic.
Risk it.
It feels good.
Feels good to take the risk.
Bhakti yoga wants your every waking breath.
Yeah, that's all.
Just one lifetime.
Just one life.
The universe is overburdened by our lies.
Lies. All the lies.
Lie, la, 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 la. Would you lie, la, 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 la? Tell me why, tell me why. Why I have to lie. That's a great song.
Truthfulness requires determination.
Yeah, it does in this world.
Why not surrender it all now to a noble cause?
You're gonna lose it anyway.
We will be tested and our egos will be dismantled. And fortune favors the bold bird.
The bold bird.
Thank you, everybody.
The big bird.
Fortune favors Big Bird. That was my takeaway. Oh, Zoomers, you're doing it again. I'm always impressed.